Hello everyone, this is performance class number 8 about CPU and the inside of the CPU. Nomenclature. CPU is Central Processing Unit. TTL, transistor logic, a type of integrated chips built with bipolar transistor. CMOS, complementary metal oxide semiconductor, a type of integrated chips built with MOSFETs. I/O, output or input. Lines or pins on chips with output or reads data when bits has been applied. EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. ALU, arithmetic logic unit, digital circuit which can input to binary numbers and either add or subtract. Bus, a bus is used for communication with all different modules in the architecture of a computer. Understanding the complexity of how computers work can be hard today. Society and computers have advanced in the recent decades. A lot of digital circuits and processors that many people don't even realize what is happening when they are sitting in the front of their phones or computers. The era of transistor and computers has been strongly growing with each year, and with each year passing by, there is more people who don't understand this technology. A full understanding or understand how a computer works, it is needed to understand first the components of which as is built up. A processor will have a clock module, register, ALU, output, counter, RAM, and bus. Clock module. The clock functions in the computer is to cycle forward the data or instruction. The clock is a crucial component, and without the clock module, the computer will simply not work, or rather, not show any progress of the data. The clock modules also determine how fast the computer can execute instructions. This is most commonly measures frequency, and the CPU's main engine on how fast can execute the instructions. The clock output will be voltages driven outputted in pulse. Thus, pulse will enter the modules of the computer. This will make computer work with after the clock outputs a pulse. For the sample case, there is digital circuit such as 55 timer IC. This clock can be regulated with only capacitor and a resistor. The value of chosen components will driven on how fast the clock will cycle. A clock can also driven differently by outputting either in mono, a stable, and bistable mode. In the stable mode, the clock will push without any conditions. This means that when the clock is a stable mode, the computer runs continuously. More or less, the clock will be driven as a oscillator in the stable mode. Register. Registers are processor's component which holds values. Voltage. Those registers contain small amount of the fast memory which hold values stored into them. This will make registers unique in a way that they will be part of the important instructions. Instructions such as mathematically numbers written in a bit can be stored in registers and then move those numbers where they should belong. In common computer, there are lots of registers. Those registers can be different functions of what they store, but most commonly, they store value with all intended to be input on other modules which will do examples mathematical operations. ALU. The ALU or arithmetic logic units, the computer's mathematical processor. The ALU can input bits from different registers and then do mathematical operations when the register's values are input. Bus, the bus of the computer is used for communication. It means that all of the computer's modules can output to the bus, but also input from the bus. Without the bus, there is no way for the computer to work, since without the communications, the different modules can show what they are output or input. The bus is usually located in the center of all the components. This way communications is assured to be closest to all the different components. Output. The output modules of the computers consist the register which holds the values intended for output. The most case, the output also consists the same graphical component which can show what kind of value the output registers hold. Most commonly, the output register is only used for the computer's final instructions or result, and it only shows what the computer has calculated. Counter using. The counter, or rather the program counter, is crucial. The counter tells is the most cases on what the computer should begin with. It can also be used as indicator on what stage the computer is at. This way is possible to use the counter as indicator of exactly what stage the computer is at, and also feeds the information along from longer program chains. The RAM, the random access memory, is computer's main storage of programs. There is two kinds of memory, static and dynamic RAM. Static RAM is used flip-flop to store the data, while dynamic stores the data in a capacitors combined with other digital units. The history. Listed below are the important events in history relating computer processors include release dates for many popular and widely common processors. Not all computer processors are listed as there are too many to list. From year 1923, Baron John Jacob Berzelius discovered silicon, which today is the basic component processors. In 1903, Nikola Tesla patented electrical logic circuits called gates or switch in 1903. In 1947, John Barrett at al. Invented the first transistors at the Bell Laboratories on December 23, 1947. And again, in 1948, John Barden, Walter Brattain, and William Schatzlik patented the first transistor in 1948. Again, in 1956, John Barden again and Walter Brattain and William Schatzlik were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics of their works on the transistor. In 1958, the first working integrated circuit was developed by Robert Noyce of Fairchild Semiconductor and Jack Kirby of Texas Instruments. The first IC was demonstrated on September 12, 1958. Geoffrey Dahmer is credited as the first person who conceptualized and built a prototype integrated circuit. In 2017, Intel released the first desktop processor with 16 cores, Core i9-7960X. In September 2017, it runs at 2.8 GHz and features of 22 megabytes LT cache. In 2017, Intel released the first desktop processor with 18 cores in the Core i9-7880X. In September 17, it runs at 2.6 GHz and features of 24.75 megabytes LT cache. In 2018, released the first Core i9 mobile processor, the i9-8950HK. In April 28, it used the BGA 1440 socket, runs at 2.9 GHz, has 6 cores, and feature of 12 megabytes LT cache. In 2020, NVIDIA announced acquiring ARM for $40 billion on September 13, 2020, and in 2020, AMD announced was buying Xilinx for $35 billion on October 27, 2020. What is microarchitecture? A microarchitecture, sometimes written as microarchitecture, is a digital logic that allows an instruction set to be executed. It is combined implementations of registers, memory, arithmetic logic unit, multiplexers, and any other digital logic blocks. All of these together forms a processor. A microarchitecture combined with an instruction set architecture is a make up the system computer architecture as the whole. Different microarchitectures can implement the same ESA but with a trade of things like power efficiency or execution speed. The most basic processor will include register files, an ALU system memory, and control unit that allows the processor to make decisions based on the instructions and executing. The ARM register files. To perform operations on data, there need to be placed to temporarily store the data. And this what processors registers files is for. The register file is bank of registers that are used to store temporary values and perform actions on those values outside of the registers can be given and stored in the computer memory. While this is slower operations for more can be stored in out out in memory that is relatively few registers available. Registers files usually comes from the forms of SRAM. Register denotations. A register is denoted with the letter R and a number. RO to R3 are used to store temporary values or variable but also plays role during subroutine calls. R4 to R12 are general purpose. R13 or SP is the stack pointer. The stack pointers contains a memory address where the program can store information that it will need to retrieve later. R14 is the link register used to branching instructions to return a previous path in the program. R15 called PC program counter stores the address of the next instructions to be execute. This gives the PC a huge responsibility as controls what instructions execute on processors. Put the wrong values in the PC and your programs could suddenly stop running. This is usually referred to a crash. Register flags. The current program status register or CPSR mentioned earlier contains a number of flags that can be set when a instructions executes. Those flags are the N, Z, C, and V flags. The N stands for negative and used when the results instructions is negative. Z is for zero is the set when result is zero, and C stands for carry is the set when instructions result on query. V stands for overflow, and it's set when an overflow occurs. And shout out to you, and thank you for watching.